To start with, we are going to move ahead with our panel discussion that we have planned for the day, and we have Padmini as our host for it.
Padmini, let me tell you something about Padmini. Padmini is quite famous and a recognized face in our PayPal premises. She has successfully transitioned from a UI UX developer to being a product manager today. As an advocate of the fact that whatever you do in life should touch lives of people, even if it is one. Padmini is a lead blogger and writes various famous articles on LinkedIn.
And guess what? We have seen people who have chosen to move to the media field after they do engineering. Say, for example, Rishabh's long-time aim will be that, I suppose. But Padmini is one unique piece who pursued her undergrad in media, but working as a product manager today and excelling in it. Let's give it up for Padmini.
Hello, ladies, and of course, some gentlemen right here. I'm Padmini Janaki, and welcome to Recharge 2018. So as women, we have a lot of fear. Fear of choices, fear of failure. You know, at times, somebody will have having a fear of being a good wife / good mother. Few people will also have a fear of being a good daughter-in-law. But we all start with the same equation, right? We all graduate like 50-50 with men. But if you just scroll down and see, in the CSOT level, there are only 14 to 15% of women. Like, what happens in the messy middle is a question. We all quit jobs. And most of them, they want to come back, but they don't take that first step. Only probably 7 to 8% will take that first step. The women who wants to stand tall and thrive only will take that steps. And congratulations to you all. I'm very proud of you for taking that first step. So with that note, we have our panelists. I'm going to call Richa Gupta again, VP of HR. And I'm going to tell you something very surprising. Hold your breath. She is a mother of 14-year-old son and 11-year-old son. I'm sure she's going to share all that secrets in the later part. And then we have our Chennai Ponnu, who's a proud face of Chennai, Anuradha Raghunathan, also to join me in the stage. And of course, we have Mauli V. So Mauli V is one man in the panel, and he has a PhD in statistics from Wharton University. And standing tall and thrive comes very natural to few people. And let's welcome Mauli. Let's take this. Thank you so much for joining me in the panel today. So, the topic of the day, standing tall and thrive. What is standing tall and thrive according to you? I mean, why can't we stand small and still thrive? Can we have Mauli talk about it a bit?
Can you get, okay. So standing tall and thrive, okay. So I'm going to get a lot of hard questions today, so you'll have to bear with me. Jayanti and Padmini have planned a lot of questions to make sure that, they actually bring value out of the diversity that is there in the table, right? So today I'm here to bring diversity. So standing tall and thrive, when we thought about Recharge and what we should aim for as part of the day, we felt that we wanted to inspire all of you to actually break out of shackles, build the resiliency and say, hey, you can do anything in the world. And so that's where Standing Tall and Thrive came about, and that's what it means to me as well. So right from Buffalo to Recharge moments that we saw today, morning, I think that's what Standing Tall and Thriving. You can do anything you want. How many of you found Sakshi's talk intimidating? Okay. As I sat there and Sakshi presented, I was like, wow. I mean, the world is changing right beneath me, and I have to work extra hard to keep up. Standing tall and thrive, all it means from that aspect is that you can do it. All it needs is investment, patience, and like she said, achievable goals. If you set that, we are here to help you achieve all of it.
Good, nice. So what do you think about it, Anu?
I think it's about bringing your A-level game to whatever you do, because you're doing it anyway, might as well put your best into it. And that's what standing tall to me means. Okay. There's no reason to stand small when you can stand tall, right?
That's right. Richard, can we hear it from you?
Absolutely, and has happened with me so many times. So here's what it means for me. It means that you don't have to have it all figured out to take the next step. If somebody comes to you and gives you the opportunity that you think you're not ready for, take it and then figure it out. Right? So stand tall to take the opportunity that might seem like it's out of your reach, and then you figure it out, and you will.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I think let's get into the panel now. So when we talk about the roles that women play, right? Being a mother at home is a full-time job. Again, coming to a company and working there is another full-time job. Let's say it's a stove methodology where you have 4 burners, career, passion, job, and family could be 4 burners, and which one to keep high and which one to keep low, or which should I maintain at all medium without burning out anything? I mean, how do I even plan such thing? Can we hear it from you, Anu?
Padmini, I don't think it requires so much strategy, because all of these are who you are as a person, right? When your child comes up to you and asks a question, you are a mother there, You're not thinking, I have to be a mother now. Now let me wear the mother hat, and then you get a call from work, okay, now I have to be all strict and professional, right? It's all parts of you, and you need to get comfortable in your own skin and be who you are. But I also think that when you said that both of these are full-time jobs, the minute you raise the barriers like that, it gets very intimidating. Mm-hmm. But, we are all born to do many things, and we do many things in our lives. So just slide into each of those roles naturally without giving it big names. I think, that will help. And also, no, don't try to be everything at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So today, I'm going to attend this Recharge conference. I'm going to be fully here, and I'm going to devote my time and energy here. Mm-hmm. So no point sitting here and thinking about, has a cook come, what has happened to my daughter's project in school, When you go there, you do that, right? So give 100% to whatever you're doing at that point in time. So be full-time in the moment. So not full-time mom or, full-time, professional, but give your 100% to that moment. And I think the flexibility part is very, underrated, because you should be able to seamlessly slide from one role to another, right? Now, when you go back, you home, then you just slide into that role of being the mother or, the caregiver or whatever. And when you're here, you bring your A-level game to this.
Good point. And I think your answer also roots into the Indian roots, right? As an ecosystem, of course, we see Sheryl Sandberg and watch a lot of Indra Nooyi videos, and we get inspired and keep sharing them in WhatsApp and all that. But are we, as an ecosystem, ready to have an Indra Nooyi or Sheryl Sandberg at home? Because a lot of people say that they took a break because of their kid. According to me, women take break because of their husbands, because they don't take that 50% responsibility properly. Now you have a heavy lifting on your end and you quit jobs. So, Mauli, can we hear it from you? So how do I make my life partner a real partner? I should be able to apply your secret today going back home. You have to answer like that.
I told you that they kind of strategized to give me a lot of the hard questions. Okay, so it is a very, very relevant question, and an extremely hard one as well, truth be told. There is going to be no ready-made solution that I'm going to be able to offer. That's not being realistic. I think, in my mind, I was talking about this with my wife, who's here, yesterday. I would compartmentalize the answer into, a couple of buckets. One is, I think, different generations deal with it differently. I think if you are from, generations well past my generation, so which is the, the Gen Alpha, the Gen, Z, or the millennial generation, I think in general, people have grown up by watching a lot of role models around them, right? So you said Indra Nooyi, Sheryl Sandberg, many of you have read Lean In, you see Mary Kom, being a 5-time world champion after giving birth to, children, amazing role models in front of us, right? And they are in the news all the time. So how that generation reacts to women having professional lives is very different from the generation before. So I think this is a question again, right? So if you're going back before millennials, then I think there is a lot of, like Anu was sharing the morning, right? There are a lot of conversations that need to be had in terms of managing the ecosystem around you. That's one piece of the puzzle. The second piece of the puzzle in my mind is what you highlighted in terms of how do you share the, the challenge of what you are going through with your life partner. I think that is an extremely important part of the puzzle. It requires significant amount of conversation around how you're going to balance your workload. I will give you an example from PayPal. We have an individual, his name is Mohit Agrawal. He's part of the risk analytics team. He comes into work by 7:30 a.m. and he leaves for work around 1 p.m. every day, okay? And he does an important role. He does workforce planning for all of PayPal. And so, how many operations agents have to sit in the office is something that he forecasts every day, right? So he does an important role. And he works globally. He works with Omaha, he works with Kuala Lumpur, across time zones. He leaves every day at 1 p.m. And his wife, what she does is she drops the kid in daycare, goes back home, gets ready, and she goes to work around 11 a.m. every day, and she comes back at around 6 p.m. Okay, and that's how they have managed their work life, right? And so this is extremely important. This is the kind of conversation that men and women should be having every day. The other point that Anu made, I want to make sure, two things there. One is there is a sense of guilt that all of us have, right? And I'm going to make this gender agnostic. I think truly, if you are, you're blessed to have a life partner that you love and respect, then guilt will be there in both places. How do you manage this and overcome this, right? And so you have to have conversations and make sure that there is no guilt. This is what we choose to do, and this is why we are doing it, and you get rid of guilt. That's number one. Number two, this is true for this question that you asked me, this is true for succeeding at work, is how do you have open, candid communication about what each of the partners are going through. If you have those communications, if you are ready to make sacrifices, both partners at the table, then truly you can overcome those barriers, is how I would put it, okay? That is my recipe for, that's my recipe for overcoming this.
And for a happy marriage.
Yes.
Good. So Richa, we'll hear it from you. How did you make your life partner a real partner? Because I heard you went back to work after your maternity leave, like 6th week. So that's like out of the world. So how did you make that happen?
It is, and I did not have a choice not to go back to work. So with both my kids, I have two boys. One is soon to be 14 and soon to be 11. And with both of them, I went back to work 6 weeks after they were born. And some of that were, I was in a country that isn't as progressive as India when it comes to really, providing the support, the bonding support to the women and parents. So first of all, a shameless plug for PayPal. Not only the compliance related, just the guidance around the leaves. We do way much more to support our new parents. So how did I do it? I really don't know. I mean, again, I'm going to say there was no recipe, there was no strategy around it, but a few things that we did, going back to and building on the points that you just made around having those strategic conversations with your partner, with your family, around how will they step up, how will you step up, how are you going to make it work together? Because the baby was not just mine. The baby was my husband's as well, and the family's, right? So coming to this realization, as fundamental as it sounds, it is actually a conversation to be had, right? So did that, and we made it work together. Second was, sometimes I feel like as women, we want to do things a certain way. And it's actually a criticism for us. It really is, and if I can be candid about it, please forgive me if I'm hurting anybody here. But we want things to be done in certain ways. If we are asking for help, accept the help in the form that it comes. Your husband's not gonna fold the laundry the way you do, or make the food the way you do, or bathe your kids the way you do. It's going to be different, and you have gotta be okay with it, right? So just having an open mind to accepting the help the way it comes is a big key to success here.
Good. So let's move on, and let's ask Anu, because even when you are in the break, the world just moves on, right? Because there are a lot of things happening every day, pretty much every day. Being in a journalism where you have to be on top of everything, how did you keep yourself current? I mean, how did you know about what is happening around, even when you were taking care of your kids in the break?
Like you said, being in journalism, I turned to newspapers and all the other media outlets to obviously keep myself updated. And I think it's, in a sense, I admire all of you people in the technology field because things get outdated very fast in your field. But I am fortunate to be in a profession where the skill sets you have, as in researching or finding out about stuff or, being able to interview someone, they don't fade with time. So just because you're on a break for 6 months, you might have some confidence issues getting back, but doesn't mean that, you will not be able to frame questions or you research an issue or dissect, the way you want to go about doing an article. So I think strengthening those skills after you, plug back in is also, it's not as much a challenge as you might face in terms of, learning a new programming language or, getting to updated on the latest skills. Because I was listening to the other talk and I was like, oh my God, the kind of skill sets you need are very different. So I think in my instance, it's more of just wanting to get back into the workforce, staying abreast of what was happening, and starting to do it the way I wanted to, right? So it was not like I had to go back to school or retool myself or reskill myself. I didn't feel outdated when I went back in. So,
can I add? To
Sure.
that? So you saw Sakshi's presentation, right? She gave you a lot of steps on how you should continue to reskill and upskill. A couple of things I wanted to share. One is that today, there are multiple shiny objects, okay? Machine learning, AI, blockchain. Every day you read something, there'll be 100 buzzwords. You're confused. I am confused, okay? Like, which one do you pick and learn is probably one of the biggest things that you will have to make. Now, my suggestion to you is you have to go back to your roots. What are you most comfortable doing, right? Even in an interview, they're going to ask you, what are you good at, right? That's the first question they're going to ask you. And they're going to build on that, right? Yes, it'll be nice to learn the latest thing, great. But you have to make sure your foundations are extremely strong. If your foundations are strong, no matter how many years you take a break, you'll be able to come back and take it from there, okay? Number one, right? So the question you should ask yourself is that what is my foundation? What am I good at? And what is the latest piece or technology in that area that I can go and learn and leverage what I know to build on? It's a very important question. And then you can go to, all these self-learning courses, read a lot of articles and, read a lot of blogs and so on, right? And so that is probably a very, very important step. The second step here is, our CTO, Sri Shivananda, an amazing leader, he was here in our offices 2 weeks back. Okay, every time he comes, our leadership, right, Guru, Jayanti, I get an opportunity to spend time with him to ask him, like, hey, what are you seeing in the center? What should we be doing, right? Very, conversations that help us, position the center 3 years ahead, right? Very strategic conversations. One of the things he shared with me was, Molly, today's generation they're going to live for like 100 years. They're going to essentially have 3 careers in their 100-year journey, okay? And so if you think about it like that, don't worry about big shiny objects. You're going to have plenty of time to pick those up. So today you focus on what you can achieve easily. You will have plenty of time to learn blockchain. Who knows, by the time you learn blockchain, something new will come, right? And then you can go and learn, right? That's how I want you to think. You should think of what am I good at, what will work for me, let me go, upskill myself. You will have plenty of time to go and learn other pieces, right? So I'm just connecting how a CTO of, probably one of the, strongest fintech companies that are there in the world, how he's thinking about, advice he's giving to, today's generation. That's what I wanted to share with you.
I think when you're talking about, keeping on trend and knowing what is happening, I think the art of networking also comes into picture. Like when you are in a break, I think having a very good sense of networking, talking to women who are not just women, like also your friends, men, all of them, keeping a track about what is happening in the company, in the technology, is like super important. I think we will hear it from Richa about her art of networking.
So that's an art that, you know, first of all, I just want to say women are naturals at that. How many of you this morning when you came in made friends, exchanged numbers, you're going to keep in touch? Many, right? It doesn't come naturally for all genders. So just feel proud that you have that asset to start with. You just have to build on it professionally. It came really handy with, I think that's one of the assets that I've built in my careers and will continue to, is networking, and then art of being grateful. So networking, how my recharge moment number 2, when I moved to the US and then got into the course, but there were no jobs. I didn't have, even after I had 2 master's degrees, I'd completed my MBA from the US, there was nobody who was readily giving me jobs because my experience was from India. It was not from the US. And in HR, it's very important. You've got to know local labor laws and regulations and things like that. So I, again, was stuck. 2 degrees, but stuck, didn't know how to start my career. A few things that I tried were really handy, and hopefully give you some ideas too, is I took every opportunity in the forums that I was in. So in the university, there was an alumni forum. They used to call speakers from all over the industry. I would not miss a single event. I would just go, take a bus, didn't have a car at that time, take a bus, go to the university, attend those events, pick up those visiting cards, so the business cards, whatever you call it here these days, and then send them a note after the session. Hey, I really enjoyed your session. This is what I learned. This is what I would love to learn more. Do you have time for coffee? I'll buy. Right? This is what I did many times. And to my surprise, most of those people were so willing and so ready to make time. They were feeling privileged that somebody from the crowd reached out and wanted to learn more, right? Everybody has an ego. You've got to learn to stroke it a little bit, right? And feed their self-esteem. So take every opportunity you get, and you have millions around you. You just have to look for it. The second thing that I do, and I've made it a habit, in the US, around the 3rd week of November, we have something called Thanksgiving, which is basically just pausing and reflecting on all of your, people who have made you successful, all the blessings that you have in life. I make it a point, people who helped me 20 years ago, and there have been many people who have helped me and trusted in me and took chance on me. I send them notes still to date and say, hey, George, it was so wonderful. I've appreciated your support for the last 2 decades, and I hope you're doing well. How are the kids? Just connect with them at a personal level, professional level. Be grateful. And people, it's a global thing. There's nothing about India or the US. They like it when somebody reaches out and is grateful. So whatever you can do throughout your career, I'm sure, this is a recharge moment. So previously you had people who helped you, right? Think about them mindfully. Send them notes, try to reach out, say thank you. I think thank you goes a long way. So those are a couple of kind of, tips that I have, and things that I try, and it works.
Yeah. I think when you say about that, I'm getting reminded of when Guru joined our company, where he used to he still has a very big smile, and I thought, okay, let me just copy this smile and smile at people I meet. And when I started smiling at everyone, it also had a negative impact, but it didn't work for me. I think that template of Guru didn't work for me at all. So, yeah, Mauli, back to you. So though it's 2018, right? We still have certain taboos in life, like in workplace especially, like people who are leaving by 5:30 or probably, not giving the 100%. Few men probably who didn't want to take that 50% of responsibility are still in the office, sitting there
Yeah.
and escaping from those responsibilities are seen as, they're pretty good. I mean, they are available 24/7. We don't know if they're watching YouTube, or we really don't know. I mean, I don't know. So, I mean, we still have such taboos. I mean, how do you come across that? I mean, how do you achieve that? Still saying that, hey, I'm going to be just till 5:30, but still I am making an impact that I'm supposed to be making.
Yeah. I mean, she's talking about other companies. She's not talking about PayPal.
No, I'm not talking about PayPal.
Okay, okay, good question. I think it's about setting expectation, right? In a sense, you should be clear what you want to achieve, right? In a sense, you control your own destiny. I think you should be extremely clear. Why are you coming back to work? What do you want to achieve? And that clarity will come across in your conversations with your peers. It'll come across in your conversations with your managers, and it will create an aura about you. It'll create a brand about you, right? Number one. Number two, what Anu, shared in the morning, right? You should be good at what you do, right? In a sense, you should say, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and you go and deliver on that, right? That's number two. In general, if you do these two things extremely well, your brand will continue to grow. People won't care what time you come in, what time you leave. In PayPal, in general, we offer that flexibility, right? Nobody's going to sit and check what time you came in today, what time are you leaving. It rarely happens, okay? If I'm not saying, I don't think, I can't stand here and sit here and say 100% it doesn't happen, but I'm sure there are one or two cases where we need to continuously, work with the managers, but in general, right, 99% of the time, I can assure it doesn't happen. What you need to do, what we all need to do is make sure that we communicate well and we make sure we deliver on what we need to do, right? That's number one. Number two, I think a lot of times it's about building trust. It's about building relationships. If you come in and say, hey, you know what? I am here to learn. This is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. The people around you will say, okay, hey, this person clearly shows that ownership is, I can hold this person accountable for what I'm giving this person, right? So you build the trust, and this networking thing is, it's about building relationships, right? People need to know you, right? One of the challenges, for example, an equally related challenge is that if you have somebody you work with that you don't see, right? How will they get to, figure out that they can actually work with you extremely well? It's about relationships. They need to know who you are, right? Once you do that, nobody's going to care what time you come in, what time you leave. That's my answer to that question.
Richa, what is your opinion about it?
I think it's both, I would say, culture and strategy together. There are certain companies that do believe in long hours equals greater performance equals greater rewards, right? So that is out there. I'm not going to shy away from saying it doesn't exist. And then in terms of the strategy, I think all global companies, and PayPal, nobody has mastered this. All the global companies struggle with it and think about strategies on how to make lives of their employees easier. There are employees in the US, I see them, they leave the office, they go home, and of course there's no help or Swiggy there. So you've got to go home and buy your own groceries and cook and feed your kids and bathe them and get the homework done and get them to bed. And then you log in at 9 o'clock again, right? So a lot of that happens there. And I hear the same concern here, with employees in India. They have got to do the same, both genders, right, equally. So I think the strategic component is what, we are very mindfully trying to think through is how do we make each of our locations self-sustaining, where the work is end-to-end, the ownership of the products and the development is end-to-end in a way that the interaction across borders is minimum. It's never going to be absent ever, right? Because it's all tied together, and we all collaborate together. But to the extent that he can carve it out in a way to make lives easier, to provide that ownership, the better it is. So I think that's the strategy part that I think we should continue to work on.
Good. Anu, you have a point on that.
So basically it is don't count your time, make your time count, because clock watching doesn't serve the purpose. And I think I'd like to add that, I'm also in a profession where the deliverables matter far more than how much time you put into it. So there is a certain work product that is expected and an output that is expected. How fast and how well you deliver is completely up to you. Say you have aced it and you can do it in 2 hours, then 2 hours is the time limit for that. I'd like to add a point here about Aditya Puri. I interviewed him a few years back. He heads HDFC Bank, which is one of the most successful banks in India from the get-go, has always been profitable. Extremely good parameters in terms of, revenues, growth, profitability, all of that. Okay, and when I interviewed him, one of the things that I was asking him this question about work-life balance, and he said that he always comes in at 9. He clocks out at 1 o'clock for a lunch break. He lives 5 minutes from the HDFC Bank headquarters. He takes a 1-hour lunch break, and he is out of the office at 5 p.m. with nothing left on his table. All of the pending memos, everything has been cleared out. He does not log into his email or answer employee calls or do anything from that 5 p.m. till the next day he shows up for work at 9 a.m. And his mantra is that you can get a lot done when you are at work as long as you are focused about what you are doing. So as long as you don't fritter your time away, as long as you don't get distracted by n number of things, if you structure your work day, I think you can get a lot done. So if you are in the middle of a work call, then suddenly an email pops up. You don't have the urge to go back and answer that. So there's a time for emails, that's when you'll answer it. There's a time for phone calls, that's when you will do it. If you have to, prepare, a product memo or whatever, you focus only on that. But the minute you start saying, okay, while I'm doing this, let me take this call, let me do this email, your mind space is frittered away. So from what I have learned and what I, have tried to practice myself is, you can be very productive with 2 hours, and you can be extremely unproductive with 8 hours of time. So time is what you make of it, and if the organization recognizes it, nothing like that. Because if they look at the work quality and the output and they are not measuring, hey, how long did you take to do this? No, sit here for 6 hours, So it's up to you. If you are a fast worker, if you're an efficient worker, if you're a productive worker, you free up all of your time to be all the other things, mother, wife, caregiver. So, I think it's about efficient use of time.
So, Mowgli.
Next one, okay.
So we spoke about the ecosystem, but we forgot to talk about one element of it, right? Signing up your manager. Because I'm always lucky on that parameter because I've always had a very experienced managers who have gone through or who had reportees like that. But in this age, there are a lot of managers who are pretty young, not even married or, didn't go through that phase. I mean, how do you, mentor or guide such managers who are under you in our center?
So this is reverse mentoring at work. This is reverse mentoring at work, right? Where you go and say, hey, these are the things that I'm going through and this is where I need your help. So, okay, let me answer it from multiple perspectives, right? So from the perspective of a person who's coming back into work, the initial few days are extremely important, right? Initial few days, few months are extremely important because I think it is an opportunity for you, especially if you're working with a manager who does not have experience, in working with someone who's taken a break. Then I think you need to have explicit conversations with them in terms of what does success look like, right? This is a very broad question, but it will help you understand, does the manager have a bias towards longer hours, does the manager expect daily, communication on where you are in the project? Because you're trying to build trust, right? So from that perspective, I think it's very good to start the conversation with what does success mean? For me, what does success mean for you? What do you expect from, a person like me who's coming back, who's trying to juggle multiple things, and I want to do extremely well, right? And so that conversation is super important. And I think Richa was saying earlier as well, is that you're going to fall down multiple times. You're going to have tough conversations multiple times where the manager gives feedback saying that this is not per expectation, and then you're going to push back and say, you should push back and say, hey, this is what we agreed on, this is what I'm delivering, where am I missing, okay? And then you agree on a rhythm saying that, hey, if you give me feedback earlier, don't wait till the end. Those are conversations that need to happen for sure. That's, I think, the partnership with the manager, okay? And so, again, it boils down to communication, trust. That's number one. That's what we want you to do. Now, as an organization, you can hold us accountable as well, right? We need to be doing certain things as well. And this is the point Richa is making as well. Strategically, as an organization, what is the culture that we are building in our managers? Let me give you some examples, right? So, for managers, and for all employees, literally, we have unconscious, bias, training, right? So many times you take things for granted. You don't even know there's bias, but the way you talk, there's bias in the conversation, right? Number one. Number two is conscious inclusion training. We've done unconscious bias, then we say, hey, there's still bias, we're missing something. So then we go and say, this is what organizations do, right? They react to feedback, they observe and say, maybe we have to tell the story in a different way so that it can connect with people, right? And so conscious inclusion. So we do this. And there are sessions tailored for managers, right? And then we have people manager training where we talk a lot about multiple types of inclusion, right? Geographical inclusion that Jayanti was addressing in the morning, right? People talking in vernacular. How do you work with millennials? People like to come in. I mean, they sleep till 11 a.m., 12 p.m., noon. They come in and they work. Their working style is very different, but things get done. Things get done more than what you even expected. So how do you work with them? As part of that, I think, working with, recent college graduates, working with recharge candidates, those are strategic conversations that we have with our managers, and those are things that will help. So it is a partnership. We expect you to do certain things, and we expect, as an organization, we inculcate certain practices in our managers. And so that's how we overcome these challenges.
So, Richa, here is a question for you. So you are VP of HR, which is a huge role per se. So how did you know, when to take bigger responsibilities? How will I know when to sit at the table and take certain responsibilities? Because like Aishwarya was saying, I'm from a media background, and one fine day I wanted to become a product manager, and then I wrote to a product director in my company saying that, hey, you know what, I want to be a product manager, and I thought nobody's going to reply. Finally, I got a reply, and then I went and met him. He said, you know what, it's not going to work for you. And after some time, he also guided me like how I can prepare for it. And after 6 months, I'm very happy to say he's my manager now. So, how exactly you will know when to sit at the table, how to approach? Is this a big thing for me? Can I really do this? How do you know it?
Absolutely. So I think the good start is start with yourself. And during the break, I was having conversations with a few of you, building on the point that Anu, you made. How many conversations, how many thoughts do we have in a day? 70,000 thoughts. Sakshi did it. Sorry about that. So just imagine taking half of those and turning into motivational conversation for yourself, right? Because who do you talk to the most in a day? Yourself. Right? So I think it starts with the programming of yourself and reprogramming to even get to the mindset where you have the can-do attitude. So that's the first thing. Second, I think both of you have built on that. You've got to be good at what you do. So success is not accidental. It never is, unless you are buying a lottery. Even for that, you've got to take an action and go buy a lottery, right? So it's not an accident that success occurs. You've got to be working towards it, right? And all of you are here and investing in yourself. So that's a good step forward. So those two things, and then believe in yourself is huge, right? You've got to trust yourself more than you trust the system. Always true, right? People will come to support you, but you've got to know that you can do it. Yeah. Right? And, once you have the power, the Brahmastra of education, trust in yourself and the confidence built that even if you don't have it all figured out, that you will do it, I think rest is history.
Yeah.
Can I add?
Of course.
So
yeah.
I think this is a gender agnostic question. Let me, I was having this debate with my wife yesterday. A couple of things, right? One is that all of us go through this. The important thing for me is that you have to be vulnerable. If you look at what Richa shared, she shared, her journey, and she said, moving from India to the US, she actually started grounds up to learn everything, how things work, right? You have to have that openness, you have to have that vulnerability, and say, hey, I don't know this, I want to go and learn. So, the fact that you can sit at the table itself is something that you will get to know by people around you, who are essentially giving you feedback, right? For example, Jayanti gives me a lot of feedback saying, Mauli, you can do this. Why are you not doing this? You can do this. So you have to have an ear to take feedback and have that conversation. Am I even ready, for these things? And a lot of times in life, this is like, what happens in most companies is that you will get the responsibility before the designation or promotion, right? This happens all the time because managers want to, good managers want to delegate, give you the responsibility so that they can go and do a better thing, a greater thing, right? Because they want to grow as well in their careers, right? So you should be open, and like Richard said this, right? You should go and never say no. You should take on whatever responsibility. You will learn, you'll make mistakes, but you'll learn along the way. That is a great way for you to figure out that you are ready to be seated at the table. And the beauty is that you will be asked to come and attend meetings, in a sense, be at the table, and you will be wondering, why am I called for this meeting? That is a sign that you are ready for being at the table. That's how, at least I look at it. Yeah.
Great points.
Very
Great
good
points.
point.
And I think around feedback, that's a very important one.
Yeah.
Because in order for you to keep learning, you've got to know what's working, what's not working. So take every opportunity you get. Not all the feedback is taken to the heart, right? So you have got to be mindful about what you take and what you leave. But it's good to be open about seeking feedback.
I'd like to add a point here. I know we are all very well within the corporate structure, but in the interests of entrepreneurship, sometimes you can create your own table. Because you don't have to be at the table created by someone else. You're not always going and angling for what somebody else has created. There are enough examples of entrepreneurs across India, particularly right now, where there are so many young millennial entrepreneurs who come up with a great idea, and they are actually, and particularly for women, I think they are creating their own rules. Nobody is going to say, did you come in at 9 and punch out at 5, because it's your company. And I think, even within organizations, there is a lot of scope for entrepreneurship, because I'm sure with empowering managers, there are a lot of people who can create their own universes, parallel universes. But outside as well, not all of you may want to join, the corporate 9-to-5 workforce. There are some of you who might choose to use your skills to start your own companies. And I think that's something that needs to be promoted as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, like let's say I had a break and going back to work. What I would probably get is the same junior level that I was doing 4-5 years back. For example, my own case, I had a break and everything was so different. Like eBay and PayPal had a split and a new CEO, every single thing was so different when I came back. I felt like people who joined with me have become seniors, or they've, they have more expertise, and things are like moved on so much. I mean, how do I, take that? Because it's so much pressure. I was in a stage, I was a top performer, go back and come back, and now I'm like feeling like a fraud inside the same team I used to work for. So can we hear it from you, Richa?
Absolutely. And sometimes I think you're talking about a lot of anxiety, right?
Yeah.
And then the sense of just feeling completely overwhelmed. Anxiety comes from a fact when you think that you've got to figure all of this out at once.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a strategy to it, right? You've got to break down your problem, your challenges, your opportunities in bite sizes.
Yeah.
And once you do that, you know what to approach first and what to delay for later. So I think with a little bit of mindfulness and strategy around, okay, here's all the ground that I need to cover. This is what I need to do first, and this can wait.
Mm-hmm.
And being strategic and mindful about it, I think it's
Possible.
very, very possible.
So,
Can I
yeah,
add?
please.
So I have my own recharge kind of a story in this context. I was fortunate to, do a PhD and then come back to India, and I joined Amex. When I joined American Express in India, I was actually given a job of a management trainee, okay? And then I came in and I joined. I thought it was a big thing. Then I went and joined, and then I saw that there were people who were already analysts, who came fresh out of college from Delhi School of Economics with a master's. Okay, now I'm coming from Wharton, and after like 8-9 years of education, and then come and see, and then Delhi School of Economics, okay, Wharton, the US, and Delhi School of Economics, it didn't gel with me. Okay. And I felt angry, I felt frustrated, I felt irritated. So I went, pulled my manager and said, this is unacceptable. How can you do something like this, right? I am being hired at a level that I think is far more junior than what I deserve, right? Very true to the question that you asked. And so, obviously, so a lot of anger, emotion, irritation, whatever it is, right? And I felt like quitting. The truth is I felt like quitting at that point in time. So my manager was pretty good. So he just heard me out, and then he said, don't worry about it. Why don't you just sink in and learn what you can over the next month or so? We will look into it, right? This is how organizations do it, right? They kind of put it in the back burner, so they will look into it and we'll come back. And so, I spent, a month, 2 months in the environment, and I realized that there were plenty of things for me to learn. Forget levels for a minute, but there was a huge opportunity for me to learn. So in a sense, right, I forget designations for a minute, but plenty of things to contribute to, plenty of things to learn, and recognition started coming my way. Now, if you believe that you are surrounded by good people, the company that you're working for has good culture, and what will happen is that they want to reward people who are good as well, right? That's the best for the organization. If you think about it from that perspective, you will grow faster than others. Going back to what Richa said, you have to be good at what you do. Think of it as small steps that you're taking. The organization will fight the battles and make bigger steps for you. And over a period of time, it will course correct and it will come back to parity, or you will grow even faster than others, right? That's the way to think about it. Right? That's how at least I've thought about it and what's worked for me.
So when it comes to men, women, and gender equality in workplace, our country is like 123rd place, which means that there's something working out well in this 122 places. Can we hear it from you, Anu? What are the best practice the other countries are following, which we can, bring it to our country?
That's a great question, Padmini, because we tend to live within our own wells, and we say that we are doing the best, and we are the biggest frogs in this well. So it really helps to look at what other countries are doing, and I think I'd raise the example of the Nordic countries, Finland, Norway. All of them have they're ranked very highly on the happiness index, and they're also ranked very highly when it comes to women in the workplace. And one of the reasons for that is goes back to the hours question that we were discussing. Many of them, even the men in the Nordic countries, don't work the 40-hour work weeks. It's the norm to work 30 hours there, right? So you don't do 8 hours per day. You do less than 6.5 to 7 hours per day. So in an entire week, there is so much time outside of work, which is where the happiness quotient also kicks in, because you're not feeling stretched at work, you're not at work all the time, so it makes for a more balanced life. I'm not saying that, we should all switch to 30-hour work weeks, but it's something to bear in mind, right? It's something to bear in mind, because we don't, maybe a work from home option is good, where, your 8 hours is spent productively only at work, and you're not spending 2 hours commuting. So you're not doing an 8-hour work week, you're 8 hours a day, you're doing 10 hours a day. Mm-hmm. So can we cut out some of the surround sound? Can we cut out some of the clutter? Can we look at more productive uses of time instead of demanding presence and, punching in and punching out, and, looking at deliverables as opposed to human presence, right? So I think the world is moving that way. There's so many co-working spaces are coming up. Yep. So many people who are, one-woman shops that they set up. A lot of telecommuting options. So I think we should explore more of that, and I think that will automatically bring a lot of women into the workplace. I'd also like to add that there are so many companies which are starting to think about women in these phases where, like Richa said, she had to go back to work at 6 weeks mark, which is a very tough thing to do. So say a conference comes when your child is 10 weeks or 12 weeks old, and it's a very important conference for you. There are some companies which have started supporting nannies for women attending a conference. Mm-hmm. So you go attend the conference, you take the baby along, you take the nanny along. Right? And the company pays for the nanny. Now, you can all come back and ask Mauli about all of that. So, I think HR policies are getting very progressive. It's called a nanny accompaniment policy. And, you start thinking of ways where women are facing the challenge and finding the struggles. And then you kind of work around to provide solutions, maybe on a one-on-one basis, maybe at a group-wide, corporate level, if it is a critical mass of people who are facing it. And I think it's now very common to have crashes at the workplace. I interviewed Nisaba Godrej, who runs Godrej Consumer Products, and she herself went through this journey of motherhood and having 2 kids. And she said that every time I experienced a moment where I'm struggling, I'm not able to give attention to the kid and still run a very, multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, she started thinking of ways to, where can I get more help? And I think they have a similar Career 2.0 program where they bring mid-level, mid-management women back into the workforce by providing training.
Yep.
If I may add just a couple of points, I think corporates have the responsibility to build the pipeline in a more conscious way. A lot of the other countries and great global companies that I've seen is they are getting engaged more in school, at the school level, because we all know girls are just so bright, they do so well through the school, and then teenage hits, and then something happens, and it doesn't go well, right, for a number of years. And then of course the drops from the engineering schools when it comes to technology is also something that a lot of good companies in great countries are focusing on. PayPal, I think we are very active, Girls Who Code, and other avenues through which we can start early and kind of build the pipelines that way. The second thing that I really want to bring up is quite personal, but I think we are here today to solve for our own careers, but we have an opportunity both as mothers and fathers to pay forward to the future generations. I have 2 boys, love them. But how I shape them and socialize them and raise them differently, so their generations is different. So their wives have a different experience. So and their kids are just different from how we are and our challenges. So be mindful of how you're raising the next generation. So the conversations in 20 years are different.
True. I'm not going to hog all the time. I'm going to give it to the audience open for questions. Do we have any questions from the audience? Oh, she has.
Can we pass the mic around? Do we have mics out there? Do you need a mic from here?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for this session, and it's been enlightening so far. Just a little, we were talking about difficult conversations, so I need your insight on how to navigate this difficult situation that I'm facing. I joined back work after 5 years. It's been 3 months, and I'm glad to say I did it on my own. And when I joined the company, I'm grateful they gave me the opportunity. But during the interview, the talk was, you take a pay cut, we'll give you flexibility. And that was the thing I thought would work in my favor. I have a 5-year-old daughter and a husband who is an army officer, so that worked for me. After 3 months, I'm finding it a little tough because I'm the only woman restarter in the company. And everyone is a young workforce. Everyone more than happy to clock in 9 to 6:30. I'm finding it difficult to navigate there. So, and I have a male boss. So I would like, from your perspective, he is a very approachable person, and I'm lucky for that. But just the culture is such that you put in long work hours, and I would want a little bit of flexibility for me, which was promised. How do I, bring this up with him without maybe causing any collateral damage? That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you want me to answer it?
Yeah.
It's like you've now teamed up with Padmini and Jayanti to give me.
I'd like your perspective. Be helpful. Thank you.
No, I think the reason these are difficult conversations is because they're difficult, right? So let's back up, right? I think forget the culture of the company for a minute. I think it's very important, but forget it for a minute. I think what you need to do is you need to figure out what is important for you and go to a conversation from that perspective, right? And so, hey, this is what I feel. I went through coaching a couple of years back on leadership, and one of the ways to give feedback is to share what you feel, not what you did something wrong. You told me flexibility, but you're not. In a sense, talk about what you are going through. That feeling of what you're going through usually helps you connect with people, right? So if you can share, what you are feeling today, the challenges that you are facing, and lay out the expectation that you had as you came in and joined, saying that, I took a pay cut, knowing fully well that there's going to be flexibility on the ground. And hear the manager out, okay? No judging till now. Hear the manager out. I think you should also cover, in general, how you feel about the environment around you, which is where the culture comes in. Hey, I am the only person who's going through something like this. And, how are other people being treated compared to how you are being treated? How it makes you feel is something, again, that you should capture. What stops you from, organizing a brown bag, we call it a brown bag, but a small gathering in the office to talk about, as a woman, how you are overcoming these barriers. In a sense, you talk about the challenges and how you're facing them in a very positive manner in the workforce. If you can do that, those are things that will create a brand about you. Hey, she's amazing. She's able to go through all these things, manage family, husband is, army officer, not here, manage work as well. And you create a brand around you, not only with your manager, but with your co-workers. Those things usually help, where they will come and talk to your manager and say, she's doing amazing work, she's balancing so many things. Those help create a story for your manager. When you go and have that conversation with your manager's already heard it. He has heard it from multiple places already as how you're able to balance these things out. Then the conversation will be easier. I'm not saying it's like, okay, done deal, but I'm saying the conversation will be easier because they know you're good. They know that you add value. They know that you're open about what you are going through. That's possibly how I would think about it. Quick on the feet, you put me in a spot, but that's how I would handle it. Right.
Good. So we're going to take only one more question here. Okay.
Actually, I would like to thank you all for organizing this panel discussion. Really, it was wonderful. Actually, I was facing a couple of, this is not about any gender bias. First of all, let me tell you that. I had worked with multiple managers, both female and male managers, okay? So I had faced challenges with male managers compared to female managers, okay? Especially after being a motherhood, okay? So for instance, when I go to my manager when my child was 4 months old, just when I tell him like I have to go home, there is some emergency. So I still remember him asking me like, is your child really not feeling well? I'm going to him asking like, I'm having an emergency, my child is not well. He asked me immediately, is really your child not well? So I still remember that. But otherwise, when I worked with a female manager, I had seen many situations where she had understood me and she used to tell, okay, Hamsa, go ahead, I can understand, please balance your work, something like that. Coming back to PayPal, I know that there is a great work-life balance, and I just want to know whether any male managers had been trained in such a way so that they understand females' problems or their motherhood problems very clearly, or how has it been managed? So I'm just curious. Good question. Okay,
there's only one person on the panel. Clear.
Sorry about that.
No, Hamsa. No, thank you. Great question. I think, yes, we do. We generally talk about how it is important to understand perspectives, how to be inclusive. I don't know if Jayanti can correct me, we don't specifically quote this example and say, hey, you know what, she will come to you and then you need to, let her go. I think the culture that we have, and I've been here for 9 years, I complete 9 years, tomorrow. The culture that we have is we are surrounded by amazing people, okay? We all want to work for a company for 2 reasons, in my mind. One, surrounded by amazing people. When I say amazing people, people who are smart, whom we can learn from, people who are easy to work with, right? Not just manager, right? Even your co-workers. That's number one. Number 2 is we get to work on something that's very meaningful. In my mind, these 2 things. PayPal as a company, what I've seen, the majority, 98, 99% of the people are extremely open, transparent. They are, easy people to work with, right? And that is why I can sit here and say confidently that in PayPal, first of all, I'll be surprised if they expect you to come and inform them, take permission and go. I'll be extremely surprised, okay? Now, second thing is that they're going to not cross-examine you saying that show me the temperature reading or anything like that. It's not going to happen, okay? Now, but the problem that you state is true. There are many times that we go through these things, right? Where, why are you, going? I think it is definitely the challenge around the society, the culture that we've grown up in, right? Like you said in the beginning, I don't know whether it is, only male managers do it, but my sincere hope is that, like Richa was saying, we should continue to create and invest in, generations where, these questions essentially go away, right? Why should we even have a women, in tech panel, right? Or a panel like, stand and talk. That should essentially go away. That is the dream that we are all after. And, hopefully, there is essentially a place where there is no need for recharge, right? There is essentially, this becomes the norm. From that perspective is how I would like to say that, we need to continue to invest in, training, be it, unconscious bias or conscious inclusion training, and make sure that people around us appreciate, who we are and where we come from, and so those questions go away. Are we there today? In PayPal, I think we're there, almost there. But I think around us, we need to do a lot more work, and we're not stopping in PayPal. We need to continue to, do this investment. That's essentially how I would, my answer to your question.
Thanks
Right.
a lot, Mr. Modi.
See what like that.
If I may add to it, so there's definitely a challenge. That manager crossed his boundary when he asked you, is the child really sick? And, almost in a way for you to provide the evidence, not good at all. I would like us to think, though, just beyond that experience is, first of all, there's nothing like work-life balance. It just doesn't exist. How we should start to think about is work-life integration. Those situations happen, kids are going to fall sick soon, we're going to have parents who are getting older, so we are kind of sandwiched between two generations. I already am in my own life, and need a lot of flexibility, by the way. But the way the conversation occurs, and try it the next time around, is here's the situation, I've got to go do this, here's the work that is pending, and here's how I would approach it. Because even the manager, be it male or female, they are also under a lot of pressure to deliver. So us as employees, how do we become understanding of that? And then as we are catering to our own needs, which is very important, personally, how do we balance it with the needs of the business? So how do you have a full conversation? How do we not make it more about, you're a man, that's why you don't understand. Maybe there's more to the story, so us doing our part in approaching an inclusive conversation, it's not only up to the managers to do that. So again, we've got to think a bit more holistically about it too.
Yeah. Thank you. I think with that note, you have... Sure.
Given that we're going to wrap up, I'm sure there are many more questions. We'll be there for lunch as well, so we're going to hang around. Reach out to us if you have questions. We can have more personal conversations. We have a bunch of the leaders here as well. Can you